All right, guys, part two. It's Jake as usual, followed with Mike Shift. We got a little more to talk about in our Berserk series. This is going to cover episodes 15 to 22, with the last parts being 23 and 20 to 25. Mike, actually, we talked about how we wanted to start this episode. You want to tell them about that?
Yeah. We want to kind of we're both musicians. I think we've mentioned in an earlier podcast. I think we met through the plan and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
Jacob's music major and tuba major.
Yeah, music education, tuba / tuba performance. Yeah.
And I'm in entertainment industry studies / audio engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes into studio stuff.
He's the cooler version of me.
Nah.
I do the music. He actually makes it. Nah, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
You're the vintage, Mike.
Yeah, I'm the vintage Shift or whatever. Nah, but so yeah, we wanted to take some time at the beginning of part two to discuss the musical aspects of Berserk. Get ready because oh my goodness, I've been a huge fan of all of Berserk's music, not just the anime, for the longest time. It is a gold mine, and if you need some OSTs to listen to, especially for working out or just reading for some of them, it's such a good OST. So you said you wanted to start with the opening.
Yes, but also I wanted to mention you know who the composer is for the OST?
Hirasawa, right? Wasn't it?
Guess what else he did?
What else? I think I know, but go on.
Yeah,
Paranoia. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm. I think.
Did you catch that when you watched Paranoia?
I did not, but that is really interesting. I thought you were gonna say some other things that I knew he worked on, but no, that's actually really cool. I didn't realize. I also did not finish that anime because I thought it was too pretentious, but it wasn't because of the music.
Yeah.
Sorry for any fans of Paranormal Agent out there.
I pushed through it. I tried to get on, but I think it's cool that we got that context. I mean, at least for me, it was kind of I recognize that yodel. But I was that is that dude, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of retro kind of almost. I don't want to say disturb because it's not as portrayed. I don't think the music is as disturbing as it is in Paranoia Agent, but it is just kind of it's one of the songs. It's kind of this, dreamy.
Mm-hmm.
Trippy type of just
I think
it's kind of humanized.
I think the beauty of Berserk's music, right? I'm gonna interrupt you here because I think it's perfect. It's this dreamy, but also it does so many things. So for anyone that doesn't know, look up Guts' main theme. If you have not watched a single episode, I still think you should right now pause this and go watch and listen to Guts' theme because it is such a strange thing at first because you expect Berserk man, big long sword man, go boom man to have this really stereotypical action sound OST for him, right? To go with his main theme. But it's such a beautiful freaking it's so and it's how do I put it? It's mythical. It's like you're floating on a cloud. Yeah. And I think to me, the reason I like that so much is because it tells me that the guy that directed this, the guy that made the music for this, knows exactly what these characters are meant to be, and doesn't isn't just surface level big sword man go slash. He actually gets his the thing about Guts as a character is he's this super not enlightening character, but he's there's this aspect of wonder and growth in his as he goes through the world and blah blah, and that song is so perfect. It's great. Now on the other end of that spectrum, there's one of the songs I want to highlight. There's actually a billion songs I'd like to highlight, but I had to choose two. So it's Guts' theme, but also go listen to Ash Crow. I don't even think it's in the original 1997 anime. I think it's in the later animes or games, whatever. The song Ash Crow is so freaking cool, and to me it encapsulates the latter part of the manga after the golden age so perfectly, as far as how things develop, how the world feels. Go listen to it even if you haven't read the part. It'll I think it'll make you realize things. I think about the like how the beauty of of Berserk's world. Anyways, just wanted to highlight those two songs. Did you have any in mind?
Yeah, the opening in the end of this. I mean, that's the part that sticks out to me. I was actually like listening to the opening. My roommate was playing this game, and like I was just singing the opening. And like my roommate, girlfriend, he was FaceTime. She was like, "Oh, sing it." I was like, "Dang, I didn't even realize what I was singing because it's so catchy." I guess. So I was just like,
"Put your glasses on."
She's like, "Oh, it'll be low." You know, he got that real punk, like just like like purposely off tune, really, like purposely kind of like. Yeah, I love this stuff. But,
it's funny because like that's the one song that I'm like, I'm not like, oh wow, this fits the story perfectly, but it's just a good like it's so weird because the English and stuff makes it makes it kind of memeable, but I do love it. It's just put your glasses on and everything will be okay. When we go to watch the last few episodes, oh my goodness, I think we should take some time to analyze that opening because I think there's some things you haven't realized about it that you will with with the knowledge that you've gained. There's a lot of symbolism in it too. I actually think it's a really good opening. As far as I like to make fun of it because of the English. What about the ED?
And the ending.
Yeah,
the ending.
So pretty.
That's the stuff right there. But
you ever?
I think it.
If you ever needed like a relaxing meditative time, just go listen to that for 5 minutes and you'll be good.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's your opinion?
I wish I had the lyrics or something like that. I like it. What you think about the lyrics? Like, is it whenever it gets to like how does the ending relate to the story? You think?
Because there's some stuff I could talk about it, but it's also been a while since I've actually listened to the ED. Because, like I said, I mainly read the manga. I have watched the animes, all of them, regrettably. I'll talk about that later. But
I'm probably going like listen to the ED like after every chapter. I'll be like,
no, I feel that I still listen to it because I feel like I said I've talked so praise for the music, but I feel like I haven't listened to the ED in a while. I actually might have to go. Like I know what it sounds like in my head. I will say I like the like main, I guess you could say, chorus that I'm waiting so long. Because if you read Berserk, if anyone else is a Berserk fan in the audience, you know how that feels. Because we get like 3 chapters a year if we're lucky. But no, I feel like that's something in part 3 that we'll take a moment to like give a live analysis of the opening in ED. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing, like it kind of reminds me of just kind of like. This kind of with the instrumentation and this kind of like with the guitar, it kind of reminds me of that Naruto ending. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one with the weird time signature. I can't think of what it's called. But it's got this real folky sound. I like that one too.
Everyone talks about Naruto. Everyone talks about Naruto's opening, but those EDs, those like not Shippuden, but Naruto, like base Naruto, those endings are so good. Off topic, but. Anyways, that's another time. We could, I think we have a video idea right there, baby. But Berserk, it's Berserk time. So, I think there's some more we'll talk about the music in later parts. I think that's something because that's something I'll specialize more in the later parts because I love some of the compositions for the movies that came out, the Golden Age movies, and as well as much as okay, here's the thing, I'm gonna say this right now, and I'm gonna be super serious, okay, and then we'll get into part 2. Like, talk, our analysis, at least. Okay, everyone look at me. Do not watch the 16 and 17 adaptations of the anime. Okay, what I mean is the 2016 and 2017. Do not watch them. They are trash. They do not do any good. They just don't. Yeah, so, like, it tells the story, and the story is amazing, because it's it's Berserk, and Berserk's amazing. It's my favorite. But the freaking level of laziness... and the CGI is the worst thing ever. I'm not even a huge guy. I'm not one of those people that's like, ew, CGI. CGI can be great. But, there was a scene in the 2017 version, right, where Guts is walking, and it's literally like they grabbed his image and just put it up and down, and that's all they did. It's just... It is so pitiful. Do not watch it. Anyway, support 2, but guys, let's talk about it. Oh, man. So... we can spoil a little bit about part 1 now, right?
Yeah.
What did you think about the 100 Manslayer.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like, and I'm gonna compare this to like, I mentioned like, no, I actually didn't mention, but I did want to say like I did watch one scene from the movies,
Mm-hmm.
but because like I felt like this scene was like it was interesting to see like the 100 Man Slayer, and like I feel like it didn't have as much emotional impact as I would expected it to have, I guess, or as much like adrenaline or as much as like franticness as I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But even though like, cause like I mean the anime, the action in the anime is it has its moments, and it's I think it's pretty solid action, especially for its time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it is slower paced to like what
Yeah,
we're used to
it
today.
is.
Cause
It
it's
is
like
a 1997 anime, so I get that.
yeah.
Was it like?
So I like
Mm-hmm.
with my spoiled '90s spoiled pristine super fast anime privilege. I did check out the movie version. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, yeah, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
they translate well to like me
Mm-hmm.
from my like what I'm used to. So like I was able to like capture the stakes. And I mentioned earlier like how like the rate, it seemed like stuff was toned down in this '90s anime adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is it's cool. I don't mind either way, but it was like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there was like when they was trying to get old woman, like it was they actually like tore her like chest open and stuff like that, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like more you can
Short
tell more
for
that they
people
were trying to go on.
thinking. Short for people thinking
Yeah,
the wrong thing there. But, yeah, I
yeah,
got you. No, I
yeah.
agree. So like, one thing I'll say to kind of go against what I said in the last part, right? So I was talking about how Berserk is like not this edgy dark manga, and it's more than just fighting. There's also fighting in it, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was one of my like favorite action scenes, though. It was really cool. It was also just really cool to see Guts as a character like have that growth, and like people like go like, wow, this guy is something else. He's getting stronger, and it's just kind of it's still an action manga, so that was pretty cool, I think. Then of course
Yeah,
we go to
and
the
like I
hill.
said, the anime does pretty. I mean, it has pretty solid action scenes. I could just tell, like with modern stuff, it's gonna be like
Yeah. It's so
more.
much easier to animate with digital than it is with traditional. What are some bigger highlights to part two? What did you think?
I would say like for the road, like the weird reasons or whatever, but just like yeah, Guts actually like laying with Casca, and I think they were just like what they meant for like the character development and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm. You
and how
said
that relationship
like
developed.
their relationship development.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that was really good. Also, to add on to that, I thought the independence Guts gained, without spoiling anything too much, what that means. Thought that was really cool because if you think about it, again, I said the story is really about his growth as a character, right?
yeah,
If you think about it, he was kind of locked down where he was, and he wasn't ever going to be, he was pretty much not a dog to Griffith, like, because the relationship was pretty good despite what we learn, but he was never going to be him. He was never going to fight for what he wanted to. He was fighting for another man. You know what I mean? And that's not what Guts wanted. So the independence he gains is really, to me, was really cool. It really showed. Also, like, man, I gotta send you the manga panel that for that scene. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite. So, because it's like just the way the sun, like the whole scene when they're on that snowy hill. Anyways, that's all I'll say. It's really good.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a
Yeah, that
beautiful.
fight. I don't know why I didn't think like I said that. I think it's because that episode was like the latest one I watched.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship, but yeah, Griffin, like the Griffin and Gut scene, that was pretty like the way that was the build up for that during that scene and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. That was like one of my top 3 moments in this
Yeah,
part of the
yeah.
story. I would say.
So I'll go ahead and say this because part two, obviously it's a little less episodes, so there's not as much to talk about, but there's some really interesting things to talk about, right? So part one introduced the world, introduced some fantastical elements, blah blah. What part three does to me, is it really starts the characters off on their true paths, because really the Golden Age is just the first true arc of the story, right? There was like the Black Swordman arc right before it, but that was more for world building and such. So basically, what I'm saying is we have this interesting thing for Guts, Casca, and Griffith, right? Guts is becoming more and more humane, more and more true to himself, and becoming a better person, right?
Right.
What do you think about Griffith? What has his actions done?
Well, from that point, like that fight in the snow is broken him basically. Like, and he goes and does what he does. I guess turns himself in. I don't really know what.
He didn't turn himself in. They caught him. So.
Oh, they
But
caught.
yeah. Um.
Oh.
Basically, he's this is what I'm saying with the beauty of the contrast between Guts and Griffith, right? Their characters. You almost expect Guts to be the one just by his character design and stuff, but he's actually the one like growing, right? Whereas Griffith actually, in my opinion, in this part of the story has fallen like majorly. Not like, obviously without spoiling, not like physically like you'd expect, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But also like just as a person, like think about it. He used to be, I mean, part one, we saw him, our perspective of him was like super like righteous and like such a good leader in person. And then you learn about his real intentions and you're like, they're not horrible, but it's still kind of selfish. And that's, I mean, that's the big thing. He's selfish. And like, so he starts to fall apart though.
Like I didn't really see it in that light, like until towards the episode I just watched 22. But it's like he's so like I guess so like they frame so bright and so like whimsical that you don't even think about how like the implications of like his ambition and stuff like that.
Because I mean, like, he is really self-destructive. I mean, think about it. I remember that there's a scene that people target, where you learn about how like when the Band of the Hawk was first forming, how he got the money to keep his troops going. Do you remember that scene?
I remember this. Like, was it was the Band of Hawks in general, or it was just like
it was like when they.
I remember that scene.
So you remember how like there was this big conflict with the guy that was the head of the castle because of him and Griffith's past, I should say. Yeah. So the scene where he I'm not going to spoil it, but he does something to get the money needed for the Band of the Hawks, right? So a lot of people look at that scene and it's like, wow, Griffith was willing to sacrifice that much for his troops. But, with the context we have now, was it really for his troops or was it for his own selfish ambition? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's such a like, camera turns, frame turn, so to speak.
Yeah, so we're really like, without spoiling too much to come, we're really starting to see the true characters of our main cast, right? So, like, what is Griffith becoming? And like, it's obviously it's led to some bad things for him. Casca's grown a lot too. I mean, now that a lot of things have developed and like their world is changing, so to speak, she's had to become stronger, but also like we get to the scene with her and Guts's relationship development, but you realize just how weak, like, she was such a strong character, and when we expected her to be so strong, we saw some moments of weakness, but nothing. But now we really see like the extent of like where her weaknesses lies. She's actually very scared, I would say. And to me, like, I spoke in part one why I think Casca is like honestly one of my favorite characters and so important to the story. That's why. Because, like, dang, that was huge for not just, like, if we didn't have that scene, we wouldn't have a lot of things to come for one, but two, we wouldn't have, like, even Guts himself. The growth in that scene alone was, like, one of the biggest impacts in the story right there, that relationship development, you know what I mean? No one, I guess you could say, oh, I saw it coming, but no, I mean...
I felt the possibility, but I was just like,
well, like,
will they ever like, they need a connection, they need friendship and stuff, and they need to kind of like.
Well, what I mean by that, right, is like, okay, people said, oh, I saw it coming because it's like, oh, it's the main character and the main female character, right? But I mean, okay, so that's true, But what I'm talking about is like no one saw the impact of that. It wasn't just this stupid like, oh, they're in a relationship, it's nice. And no, it actually had a lot of meaning behind it, right? There's actually a lot of weight behind it, and like their relationship, as you'll see, is kind of interesting. Um, that's gonna come a little bit more in part 3 of this video, but even past that in the manga, where the anime doesn't cover, especially in the manga, their relationship's very important to the story, and it's such a big development. So yeah. It's a top tier ship right there. Not joking. It's almost as good as the ship that we sailed on for a couple of years. People that have read the manga alongside me, you'll understand one day. But no. So I think part 2. Yeah, I think part 2 is about growth and falls. But also leading to the big climax that is going to be part 3. And we'll see about that. But before we get there, is there anything from part 3 that stood out to you? So to me, it was like on part 1, it was Guts, talking about his ideology and how simple but beautiful it was. Was there anything like that for you in part 2?
Of course, you just kind of get to this point like where he's trying to leave, and so while he's leaving, and what Griffin meant to him, I guess like in part 2 to me kind of seems like what the characters mean to each other coming to a head basically.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, go on.
So you see like Griffin being broken by Guts, and then you see, how Casca felt about. How Casca now feels about Guts, and how she used to feel about Guts because of her admiration of Griffith, and you just kind of see these things just kind of get aired out.
Mm-hmm. So there's something I'm gonna give some enlightening things onto that thing. So, because there's a big reason why part 1. With Guts talking about his sword and like it being his meanings to live. There's a reason why that was so important to me, because this is actually a really interesting thing, right? So with that, because you pretty much nailed it. It was when Guts and Griffith had their differences, and they had that fight to like go their different ways. There's something. Guts' worldview is exactly what Griffith had, right? His sword was Guts. I mean, not like, oh, this is my reason to live. No, Guts being the sword that would get him what he wants without lies and false to get him to where he wants to go, right? Guts was his sword, and he lost that. And it really shows you the weakness of relying, like, going on like a whole, like, metaphysical, like, sociological, whatever you want to call it, level. It shows the like dangers of lying on somebody like that, and also like deceiving and like all the things Griffith did, right? It shows you the dangers of that, but also like, when he lost that, without it, look what happened. You know what I mean? To me, that's why that scene was so big.
Right. Yeah, I guess you kind of see how like how Guts is valued. Like a thing that I thought about it was like Guts finally kind of came to like, he finally got to see like how valuable he was, I guess, because of how like the weight of his actions like affected the band of the Hawks and stuff like.
Mm-hmm.
But so like I kind of, and like I felt like Guts felt kind of like a wonder in the world he was in, like because all he did was fight. He didn't really have too many aspirations other than just live and just.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like at this point of the story, he's kind of getting something to live for, and kind of seeing that he is a valuable person and that he does exist.
His ideology, right? It changed, right? And it's still super strong because it's no longer about just battles. It's no longer about surviving to fight, right? Obviously, he still has that as ingrained in him. He's not going to lie to himself to like make him better. But now it's living to be who he wants to be, right? To be like the thing that he has. It's kind of like trying to find his meaning, right? And so again, he's growing as a character. So, trying to think. So there's some things we could comment here and there, spoilery about part 2. But I think for the most part, right, how do I put it? So I think part 2 kind of shows what it means to I guess I'd spoil a little bit of part 3. Um, it shows what it means to like how do I put it? Again with the rise and fall. It shows just how like much or like in a beautiful way. It shows how much life can change in an instant. Because I mean, think about it. The fate of the Banded Hawk was determined by Guts and Griffith's duel, right? That's going to change the story dramatically because now Guts is doing his own thing and he's not just a sword, right?
Right.
And you know, I think that's an important, you know, it's such an important thing because his, you know, those actions are gonna affect everyone, and that's such a like story wise, it's really cool because it, you know, it wasn't like oh Guts left and everything's fine and it didn't affect anything. No, it's a huge development. Look at what happened to the Band of the Hawks and the later part in episode like 22, but also like you know Griffin and all that stuff. And how it affects the world. I mean, without the Band of the Hawks, that empire, that kingdom's not as strong, such and such and such and such. But you know, with all that loss on their side, I mean, think about it. It's almost a crutch that shows like how much one thing can change, and I think that's really pretty. I don't know, like what is there any other kind of impactful moments? To me, part 3 is where we're really going to have a lot to talk about. But was there any bigger kind of implications of part 2? I know there's like the deception we could talk about.
Well,
Like,
okay, I don't know if this is saying too much. I'm thinking about the like torture guy and like I mean just stuff outside of the story made me think about it because it's like it's one of the I have this I don't other than like I've heard about torture and stuff from Grand Theft Auto, but you know that subject doesn't get like brought up too much in like media. It's like Sonic Forces, you know, they dropped the ball, they dropped the ball on torture, or like what torture is. But it was interesting to see like this guy. So you kind of wonder like about the people that's in the United States because you got this guy. He's really like just enjoying his work. Like he's just, like it's his art basically. Like this torture guy, and it's like, do you wonder like, are these the type of people that's like employed to do this in like real life, like in the United States? And like, I mean, I just thought about like you know, my ethics. Like I'm not too big. I'm not a big fan.
You know, I never considered that, but that's a really good point. Yeah.
Like you know, people. I think there are like people in the United States that do this, and like I ain't gonna like, you know, I can't really crusade to get them out or something like that. But it's interesting to see like you know. Like it's weird to think about that there are people that just kind of like enjoy that type of work or but if there is a person that doesn't like I can't even imagine doing the work. I couldn't imagine like being a torturer, like hurting a human being like that, prolonged pain like that without like snapping if I had like actual like qualms with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, that kind of shows off what in a way that kind of shows where the story's heading because things are getting dark and that's all I'll say there because we got to watch part 3 together and you'll see what I mean. But you know, I mean, I see that. I never thought about that. That was kind of a minor character to me in my head, but I never really thought about the implication of that torture and how messed up he is. You know, just to make sure, what did episode 22 end off on?
It just ended out there like them doing a Sasuke retrieval.
Yeah. So did they had gotten him already by the time it was over, and they're like fleeing. There's some things I want to talk about you that are going to be huge in the development of the story, and they actually haven't been completely exposed by the author. We're still wondering about them even to this day, right? The first one is okay. So they're in that tower doing the rescue mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how they talk about how it goes like down into the depths of the earth, and there's like a kingdom down there.
Oh, I probably didn't catch it. They probably like real slick, quick with that.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find it real fast. It's because it's kind of crazy. Let's see here. No, I just skipped it in the manga. So yeah, when they're going down into the thing, they mention it because it's like there's like this big thing going on. I'm trying to find. Yeah, okay, I got to the chapter. Yeah, so they say impressive. This goes a lot deeper than the part of the tower above ground, right? And I'm trying to find it. How far does the hole go down, anyways? I heard from the lady, I'm not going to spoil this, she says, I heard this from the king, but the underground prison was built after the time of the Inquisition, and it goes down no further than about the depth of the tower, right? Which is a lie, because it goes way down. Its depth is greater than any mountain in all of Midland, right? She goes on and on. She talks about how it goes, like, what's under there goes back thousands of years, and it goes to another kingdom. And she talks about the Supreme King, Geiseric, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to mention that, right? So you should know, like, just be aware of that. There's, like, this really interesting thing. There's a whole kingdom underground that's, like, gone, right? It's like, well, that's interesting. And they talk about the king, blah, blah. So they talk about how the kingdom was apparently condoned by God and, like, destroyed by angels, right?
Oh, wow.
That was down there. So the kingdom that's down there, it was destroyed. I think they even say 5 angels. Yeah, 5. Yeah, but God finally decided he couldn't condone the Skull King. That's what the king was also known as. And the Skull King's deeds, and sent 5 angels. By lightning and great earthquakes, the city was erased from the face of earth, right? So it's like, wow, that's actually just a really, well, first off, that's just really cool, because it's like, well, what is this, right? But again, they dropped the torch, right? They dropped the torch, and I'll send you this picture after the podcast. They dropped the torch, and we don't, only us as the audience, as the reader, see this. We see, like, dead bodies all over this, like, kingdom, right? And they all have this mark on their forehead, and that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. So just be aware of that there's, like, this whole kingdom that's been, like, just gone, and it's really interesting. I just want you to be aware that that's the thing, because it's really important. Again, to this day, we have a lot of theories about it, and we've almost confirmed something. We're, like, pretty sure we know what's up. And in fact, like, the latest chapter that came out not long ago was, like, huge in what that might be, the kingdom and stuff. More so about the king, but, like, that is still a mystery to this day, and it's really cool though. So, anyways,
That's cool.
Be aware of that, because it's also really, like I said, it's really important to the story. So, any of our audience viewers out there, you don't miss out on that if you want to become a theorist like me. Yeah. Was there another moment you want to talk about?
Like, okay, this bad guy, he's pretty much, like, lost off his mind, out of his mind, with just wanting to kill people and seeing it as an art, not torture
Mm-hmm.
people, and seeing it
Mm-hmm.
as an art. And it's just like, but, like, I just think about, like, psychology, like, what goes on in somebody's mind to, like, really do that? Like, are they really in control? Like, is he a psychopath, sociopath,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And that's
Mm-hmm.
and I think that goes into, like, the intro of the series a little bit, because it's like, what, man's will or not their own, or something like that. I forgot how the intro.
So I'm gonna love to. That's gonna become really big in part 3 when we find out some things. But that's a really interesting thing about the story, is that man's will is not their own. Yeah. I think we should come back to that though, because what you just bring, when we watch part 3, I think you'll have more to say on that. That being said, there's something I want. The last thing I want to ask you about part 3 part 2 before we move on to part 3 and, like, have our live thing about that. So the king, what did you think about the king in this section?
Like the little king, like the one that showed up, like, briefly.
No, well, like maybe I'm pretty sure the anime didn't skip him too much, but, like, so, like, obviously not to say too much, but, like, Griffith kind of pissed off the king for one reason or another, right? So there's a perversion of the king, and we'll talk. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically, the king's, like, ideology is kind of flawed, and it's something to keep in note. Like, the current king, the king of Midland, because, I mean, like, it's right near the end of the podcast, so can I just go ahead and give a spoiler alert and talk about this?
Yeah.
All right, because we'll probably wrap up after this. So, spoiler alert, stop watching now if you don't want to be spoiled. So, like, when Griffith sleeps with the princess, right, and, like, pisses everyone off, the king's reaction isn't like, oh, wow, you slept with my daughter, and now she's not here, I'm going to kill you. It was, like, really perverted, like he wanted to sleep with her, and I thought that was really kind of like, okay.
I don't know if I don't think they mentioned that in the anime.
Really? Okay, I guess they might have skipped it. Like I said, I noticed they kind of censored a lot of, like, the sexual things in the anime.
Yeah.
It was real. It just kind of has some interesting developments. It kind of shows you a lot about the king as a person. The last thing, and this is also kind of a spoiler, so I'll go ahead and say it. So one thing I thought was interesting. So they basically already fled from Midland, right? Or they're in the process of that, where you watched, right?
Hmm.
So they skipped this in the anime. So they actually get attacked by the Kushins again. And if you don't know who the Kushins are, I think I'm saying that right. I might be saying that wrong. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. The Kushins were like that. You know that guy that attacked them at the camp. He looked like Middle Eastern and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically the Kushins. They're pretty much the Middle East of this story. If you could, I mean, there's more to it than that, but you get the point. I think they're inspired by Pajur. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's like the biggest inspiration. But anyways, they get attacked by like a squad of assassins, and it's pretty much just action. It's cool, but it's pretty much just action. So they skip that, which they were just trying to get to the end in 25 episodes, so that's understandable. But they also skip something that I actually kind of think is smart. They skipped another. I can't say it because basically they skipped this part, and I'm not going to say too much about it because I think it's kind of smart why they did it. In context of in the manga, I wouldn't skip it because you already kind of know in the manga. But basically, they get attacked by something else, and to me, like if they did show it in the anime, it would have revealed way too much for what's going to happen.
They showed like this giant snake thing.
Yeah, well, that's in like episode 1, right? So, that's like a demon, basically, right? Basically, yeah. So and then like Zod was pretty much a demon. Like he even calls himself all that, and he calls himself something that I'm not going to say it if you didn't, but he calls himself something. But they get attacked by another thing right before they escape, and it's like I don't know. To me, it's what the anime did in skipping it. His name is Wild. They skipped it, and it's probably for the best because it honestly did just show too much, especially because they skipped other stuff not to show it. So, anyways, just be aware that there was some content that was skipped that I do think should be read if you're gonna go back and read the manga. Just for anyone that cares, I would go and read it, even though it's mostly just action and stuff. It is still pretty interesting and gives a lot of context. Alrighty, I think that's really all I wanted to talk about. I mean, if I had to summarize part 3, like I said, it's just about growing and falling and like development of the characters before this like big climax that's going to be the end of the golden age and obviously part 3 of our topic. So, yeah. Anything you'd like to add?
No.
Alright, fair enough.
You got it.
Alright, sounds good. We'll just do a fade out or something.